What's happening, everybody? We are 7 days away from free agency, and I can hardly wait. We've already got some news pumping today, and there's another video that's downloading right now. It's been taking forever. That's going to drop, or was supposed to drop before tonight's live event. But another tidbit of free agency news, and those of you watching live are going to learn it. So let's talk about that first. And how's everybody doing tonight? It is Off the Cuff, Rock Down Detroit Lions, and Combine's over. Some winners, some losers, some risers, some fallers, whatever you want to call them. It was a good event, and it was good to go for a couple of days. Take it all in. I heard it was going to be the last year at Indy, so I had to make sure that I made this one, and who knows where it'll be, next year. But I think that's kind of cool if the NFL starts to give that, experience to everybody around the NFL, not just Indianapolis, but, spread it out all over the place. And I'd have to say that whatever's going on with Indianapolis's turf needs to be fixed, because a lot of guys were slipping big time. And I didn't like how, these guys couldn't go out there and do their best because they're slipping all over the place. Has to be something wrong with that turf, but we'll never know. All right, so here we go. We got Mile Marker 301 in. We got L. Torrey. We got Steve K. Donkey Kong. Bruce Morton. Tracy. Curtis Wilson. We got the crew that always shows up, man. Everyone's up in here. How's everyone doing tonight? Donkey Kong, man, every time you come in here, it's Super Bowl or bust. I love it. What's up, everybody? Let's do this. Poppy and Lily's dad is in here too. Thank you, Poppy and Lily, for giving your dad some time tonight to jump in here. Give me 1 second while I download this video real quick, because I don't want to lose it. I want to get this off my screen. Knowing me, I'll end up doing something stupid like hitting a button and it disappears. 1 second. Make sure it's in the place that it needs to be in, and it looks like it is. We'll start getting it uploaded to YouTube, and then I'm going to start with that information first. Just give me 1 second. All right, it is now in another domain going somewhere else in the YouTube verse. All right. So I don't know if you guys have heard this already, but there's been a guy that, I've spoken about, defensive tackle, that I've spoken about this offseason. A few weeks ago, I started kind of giving you guys who I liked, who I thought would be great fits. And as you know, we spoke the other night about the guys that are good fits, right? Based on what Brad Holmes has done in his past. And this guy I did not see on that list, but it does not mean that it's a complete no-go. We've had plenty of free agents come in that have not been on the list. But I would say, the majority of some priorities have been guys that, he's spoken with. But Christian Wilkins, Miami, defensive tackle, is going to be a free agent. The entire offseason, he was going to be tagged, and there's no way that the Dolphins are going to let this guy go. And you may or may not remember, I put out those 5 teams that were in cap purgatory, and the Dolphins were one of them. And being, I think they were like 60 some odd million over the cap. I think right now they're about 31 million over the cap. So here's the story on Wilkins. 28, coming off the best season of his 5-year career. He recorded career highs in 23 quarterback hits and 9 sacks. He has started, and Brad Holmes will love this, all 51 games over the last 3 seasons. He was the 13th overall pick in 2019, and he will be the latest Dolphins defender looking for a new home potentially. So Miami has already made cuts to Pro Bowl corner Xavier Howard and their edge rusher Emmanuel Ogbah, who we spoke about a couple weeks ago. And they are projected to save about $30 million with those cap cuts alone. not including Wilkins, because Wilkins doesn't have a deal. So the Dolphins did sign the other defensive interior rusher, Zach Zeeler, to a 3-year, $30.75 million extension last offseason. Now, the former first-round pick, Wilkins, obviously isn't getting the same kind of treatment. He's not getting a new deal, but the Dolphins are in big-time trouble, with cap. They've got 10 days left to get under the cap. That is going to be a huge number of cuts coming over the next week. So former first-round pick Wilkins has never been an All-Pro, never been a Pro Bowler, which is surprising. But it wouldn't be a surprise if he's seeking that type of a contract, though, a top-tier contract. So he's hitting free agency, I believe, at the perfect time. And this is after, having his best career year out of his last, 5 seasons. He nearly matched his career sack total from his first 4 seasons completely. He had 11.5 sacks over 4 seasons, and then he had 9 this year. So 20.5 sacks over 5 seasons. The Lions could use that all day and twice on Sunday, right? He's one of 6 defensive tackles to register at least 9 sacks this past season, joining the other guy that I really like, Justin Madubuike, who had 13 sacks. And then you've got All-Pro Chris Jones, and then Sealer, his teammate, had 10 or 10.5. Sorry, no, 10. Yeah, he had 10. So there, that guy I think was like a 7th round pick or something like that. This Zach Zeeler. So keep that in mind, during the draft and the combine. Like, you get guys like this that are complete no-namers that have amazing seasons or amazing careers, but how much of it came at riding the coattails of Christian Wilkins? That's what they're going to find out in 2024. Ed Oliver had 9.5, and then the guy I was really high on last year, Kobe Turner, had 9. So Dolphins are $31 million over the current salary cap, so that's why these things are happening. Their GM did say this, though. He says, "I think all options are on the table for us. I'm just being very transparent with it. He has earned a contract. He's had a great season. So we'll see what happens here as we talk over the next couple of weeks." CBS reports the top landing spots: the Colts, the Bears, and the Raiders. I think you guys already know what I'm going to say next. We cannot let the Bears get this dude. Just can't. Can't happen. The Bears, they're about to be the second best team in the NFC North this season. I guarantee it. Based on paper right now. Franchise tag is around $22 million. Obviously, the Dolphins don't have it, because if you franchise tag somebody, that hits the the cap right away. Expect the deal between $18 to $23 million for Wilkins, and I don't think that's too much to pay. You guys know how I feel about the top tier defensive tackles, and that I believe that, if you can get one, but it better be a great one, and it better not be $30 million a year. 18 to 20 something, I'm good with that. But you also know that I'm more of a second tier guy. I'd rather see the AJ Epinezas, get the 2-for-1 kind of deal where you're able to get 2 guys, as opposed to paying for 1 guy and you're all in. So last contract, Curtis Wilson, was a rookie deal. I want to say it was close to $16 million over 5 years, something like that. Don't quote me. I could pull it up and look, but I didn't grab that information. I want to say it's pretty close to that, though. Or maybe it wasn't his rookie deal. It might have been his second contract. Now you're going to make me look. Hold on 1 second. I won't leave you hanging. My eyes are bugging me today looking at these screens. So he had a 4-year, $15.4 million contract with a $9.2 million signing bonus. And he's valued at about 20.2 versus, I'm sorry, not versus, according to Spotrac. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So that was his rookie deal. because, he was drafted in 2019. Makes sense. First round, they had his 5th-year option in there. He made $10.7 million on the 5th-year option. So let me pop out the chat here real quick because I can see there's a ton in here already. 1 second. Yes, Christian Wilkins, you got it. Demi got 3-on-3 says, missed the last live at the very end, but I'm here. Hey, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming back. Yes, you are good, Poppy and Lily's dad. There's been some great news coming out today. Yes, they released Howard. Latimer from the Saints. That could be a good pickup too. So in the video that I did on Sneed, I didn't mention Marshawn Lattimore, but he is someone that was also in the conversation to be, that could be on the Lions watch. But everything, if you guys watched the last video about Sneed, Jeremy Fowler is the one that reported that the Lions were in conversations, and the team to watch for Sneed, that they pretty much said they're going to add a top tier corner, that's their focus in free agency again this season. And who's been saying that that's what the Lions were going to do this season? I just felt like that would have been the best move and try to do something else on the defense. I always felt like, on the defensive front, I mean, it's kind of hard to find really good guys in the draft that are really going to pop year one. And the same thing in the back end of the defense. You're really hedging a big bet that you're going to find a dominant corner year one. So I think if the Lions, find somebody in free agency to solidify the back end of the defense, it'd be a much better decision than focusing just on the draft to fill that spot. So, the Lions now have a chance to grab Josh Allen. Don't think the Jags will tag him. I haven't heard anything on Josh Allen yet. But I think he's significantly more as far as contract. Doesn't he want like 30 million or something crazy? Win Southwell says, I want us to trade for Chubb from the Finns. I think Chubb's a free agent, isn't he? Maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was a free agent. Hey, Jared Semmelbauer's in the house. What's happening, my man? Tracy, who do we have money for? I mean, we have money for everybody right now, if you think about it. We did the roster breakdown a couple weeks ago, and I re-signed, everybody, Goff and Panay and Amon-Ra, gave them all max deals. I didn't give them no $26 million to Amon-Ra, but I gave them, $22 million deal, 23, something like that. At the end of the day, I did all that and still had 60 million left, because you can kick the can, you backload all the contracts anyway. And then by the time you get to that contract in year 3, you're going to restructure it. And that's just the way it goes. You know what's funny about NFL contracts? They're a big fugazi. That's what they are. They're fugazi. They aren't real. These guys get like half of what their contracts are. And that's not because of taxes. They literally probably get about half. So they might sign a $100 million deal. They might get 50 of it. Maybe. It's crazy. Some of the bigger guys, as far as quarterbacks and that, they get the large majority of their money. Let's see here. Lions Blood 89 says the Panthers have stopped talks with Burns on a long-term deal. I'm not high on Burns. He just doesn't excite me. He doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is. He just doesn't do it for me. I got to grab something real quick. 1 second. That's what you get when you get 70-degree days in Michigan, man. Allergies come back. I just can't win. I've gone from 2 sinus infections and to now allergies, and it's like 70 one day and 20 the next. I just can't win here in Michigan. Need to move. All right. So Demi got 3-on-3 says that's why I need the Lions to extend Goff if they're going to do it. Extend Sewell too to create more cap space. Exactly. And then you'll have or get rid of some rotational guys who don't show up, like Will Harris, Kaminsky. I'm not like Kaminsky needs to stay. I'm not off of Kaminsky. I think that he just had a down season. I think he's good enough to stick around. I really do. And you got to remember that he was on the Brad Holmes list. So he was a free agent, or not a free agent. He was a pre-draft visit with the Rams. I don't know if you were in that one, but I went through and found the large majority of all the free agents that have come to Detroit have all been former pre-draft visits of Brad Holmes. Kaminsky, Denzel Mims. Who were the other ones? I had them all written down. I don't remember them all now, but there's like six guys, since 2017. So I think that, man, he doesn't need to go yet. Got to give him a chance throughout camp. You ain't going to save any money with him. What are you going to save? I don't think there's much to save there at all. One thing I forgot to mention about Sneed, though, and when I was going through that video, I was explaining that, a couple weeks ago, I said, look, if a deal's going to get done with him, I thought it would be a first and a fifth, maybe a first and a fourth. But then after I went through everything today and looked at it a little bit deeper, I'm like, okay, I found these 6 tag and trade contracts. And so a tag and trade is rare as it is. It doesn't happen very often. But looking at those deals and looking at what, Sneed is kind of worth, you can never put a value on a man, but you know what I mean. So looking at what he's worth from a contract perspective, I still think he's worth a first and a fourth or a first and a fifth, but only if the Chiefs are going to include a third. So if the Lions give up 29 and a fourth next year, which we have 2, and the Chiefs give us back Sneed and a third, what are you really giving up? So your first at 29 now becomes a third. And you got Sneed, who is a first round talent. So let's call Sneed in the first a wash. You gained a third, and then you give up a fourth. I think overall you're getting very good value back. If you were to spend a first round pick on a corner this year, you don't know what the hell you got until 2-3 years from now. And he would have to have an exceptional season to be worth not trading that pick for Sneed this year. And I'm not saying that I want to trade out of 29. Trust me, I want to be at the draft and enjoy the first round pick. But I'm not going to put it past Brad Holmes not to bundle a bunch of picks together and try to, maybe gain an extra first round pick if he's going to make a deal like that. The other thing that I was considering is, okay, so if the Chiefs don't want to throw anything in, what is Sneed really worth? If you have to bring this guy in and pay him $18 million a year, right now he's playing on the franchise tag or he's sitting. And the Chiefs said that they'll go through with the franchise tag. So if you bring him in, the Lions got to pay him $18 million roughly, per year on his contract. Won't be that much his first year. It'll probably be a 4-year deal. So you're taking all the risk. The Lions are. So I'd say I'd give him a second round pick and a fourth next year without getting a third in return. That would be the max I would do, or a second and a fifth. Sorry. That would be the max that I would do without getting a third in return. What do you guys think about that? Would you do that kind of a deal? Demigod says just bring in better talent, replace some of these players, get better and faster players. I believe you. Jared says, I believe Fisk has ties to Michigan as well. Stop the sugar consumption. Hey, tell you what, I got Coke Zero today. No sugar. And then I got a Pepsi. So I got half the sugar. Yep, I'm going no sugar, finally. Coming from a guy that just took metformin. And no, I don't even have diabetes. So my problem is I go the other way. I have this rare hypoglycemia called reactive hypoglycemia. It's like it just tanks. Like my sugar just completely dies off. And I got to eat. So if I don't have sugar around, sometimes I'm in trouble. I got to have something around. Detroit Fan Man says Marshawn cost $15 million this year. I'd rather deal with the Saints. I mean, is Marshawn Lattimore better than Sneed? That's the question. I'd have to look into Marshawn Lattimore more and do a comparison. Maybe that'll be a good video for this week. We'll do a comparison of, obviously we're going to hear a lot, but we'll do a comparison of, what we're hearing and what we're thinking, who the best cornerbacks are that could potentially become a Lion in the next week or so. And we'll see where it goes. So Fisk played for Western Michigan. He transferred to FSU when his coach was fired. Great move on his part. Yeah, it was huge move on his part. Let's talk about some combine. And man, there was some guys that they really helped themselves out big time. And Chop Robinson is on the list. We'll talk about him first, Lions Blood. How about that? I'm high on Chop. I've heard people say he's on bust watch already. The guy hasn't even played it down in the NFL yet, and he's already on bust watch. Penn State turns out some pretty good ball players. And I can't remember the last one that, was a high draft pick that turned out to be a bust, to be honest with you. And I would have to say that if anyone has a really good chance of maximizing their potential at becoming a first round pick, Chop could easily slip into the first round. He could tumble forward into the first round. He's been, middle second round this whole time. I think the Chop will be just fine. Obviously his measurables were great. I don't care about the 40 time, even though he was blazing. I care about everything else. And the RAS score, I think his RAS score was a 996. So that's pretty darn good. Tara Lockwood says, I hear Chop didn't have any production. What do you mean by production? We'll look up his stats real quick. All right. 2023. So he played in how many games? I should probably look up Pro Football Reference for this. He had 4 sacks. He only had 15 tackles, 2 forced fumbles. And I want to know how many games he played in, though. So last year in 2023, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He only played in 7 games. Pretty sure that's not a full season. So light on the production, maybe. But for his position, is it? There's sometimes those guys just don't get a bunch of sacks, but they produce in other ways. If you're really good at what you do and you're able to allow guys on the team to get the production, quote unquote, the stats. Stats don't mean everything. Stats are a part of football, yes, but they don't mean everything. It doesn't mean that you're not a good player. And then who knows what he's going to do when he's in a great system, or on a Lions team that has Aiden Hutchinson on the other side and a healthy Aleem McNeil for this season. And then, gosh forbid, we go out and get a really good corner and a defensive tackle. Who knows what he could do? I think that's where you've got to look at his upside, so to speak. Is he a first round talent? Absolutely. Would I take him in the first round at 29? Yes, but there's other players that I would take. But here's what we've got for Chop Robinson being a riser this weekend. He definitely put an exclamation point on his case to be a first round selection. Obviously, he ran a blistering 4.48 40-yard dash, which is the 99.6 percentile. A 1.54 split, 99.2 percentile. And a 4.25 shuttle, which was the 91st percentile. At 6'2", 254 pounds, he's that outside linebacker like Micah Parsons. He's almost identical. He's not someone that's probably going to be up on the line. He could be in the wide 9. But he, to me, is mocking towards being an outside linebacker in a 3-4 system. Or he could be, the will linebacker in the 4-3 like we run. And we run the hybrid 4-2-5 and some other things too. But basically he would be the next James Houston, somebody that has that kind of a role. Maybe he's just a third down, specialist, to start, but I see him easily working into a much better role. I really do. BD Buster, what's happening, man? And Bucky McBadbat, welcome in. George Vanderveen, how you doing? And Tara Lockwood, yes, you were correct. His sacks were a bit low. I register, what's happening, my man? So I register says, so why are the Chiefs letting Sneed go? Well, they're just not tagging him. They're not tagging him, which, he's a free agent. So he's up to do whatever he wants. And I'm sorry, let me say that all over again. I had somebody else in my mind. The Chiefs are letting him seek trades. They have tagged him, or they are going to tag him, and they're going to follow through with the tag. They're not letting him go. They're letting him go seek a trade. So they're open to keeping him if they have to, but they're also open to seeing what they can get for him. Smart move by the Chiefs, because his value is probably the highest it's ever going to be. And paying $18 million for one season is probably not a bad idea when they're trying to go all in and win 3 in a row anyway. If that made sense. All right. I missed what Bucky said. This is the most relentless show on YouTube right now. Salute to you and all the work at Will Rock. Appreciate that, my man. Yeah, I put the work in. I try. So back to Chop here. His sack numbers, to Tara's point, I mean, yeah, they weren't as prolific as you'd probably want them to be for a first-round talent. But he has consistent backfield presence. Over the last 2 seasons, he's generated 18% pressure rate to go with which was a 92nd percentile pass rush grade from PFF. So even though he's not getting the sack, he's helping produce the stats for the other guys. Along with Alabama edge Dallas Turner, Chop, I believe, has punched his ticket as a top flight specimen that's going to be taken potentially in the first round. Potentially. We'll see what the next couple of weeks produce at pro days and things of that nature. We got a few more people in here. Sports Talk with Rob. What's happening, my man? BD Buster has a question. Says, do you think we're making a mistake by repeating history and signing the receiver and quarterback like we did with Megatron and Stafford? Hold on a second, buddy. Let me read that again. Quick question. Do you think we're making a mistake by repeating history and signing the receiver and quarterback like we did with Megatron and Stafford? Are you asking, would we be making a mistake if we signed a receiver and a quarterback? I'm not following you on that one. Shift God says Chiefs value Chris Jones more than L'Jarius Sneed, and it's showing. Yeah, I would too. I wouldn't want Chris Jones going anywhere else. Any updates on Betts? No, we won't have any updates until camp. I think he's a done deal. I mean, he's going to be on the team until he's not. They've got to get through camp, but he's got a futures contract signed with the Lions, so he'll be sticking around. And that he's just got to get through the 53-man roster. So it's going to be several months before we know more. Now that could change. Now I will throw caution to the wind. The Lions could go out and sign a whole bunch of UDFAs they love, and they might fall out of love with Betts. Do I think that'll happen? No, but there's always that potential. So until we get through the 53-man, I'm not really going to comment much on Betts unless some news comes out. So one guy that I felt, had a great combine, but also, he had an incredible combine. It was nuclear, but he's fallen a little bit, is Braden Fisk. And this could be, a potential fit for the Lions. He doesn't fit, the parameters that I like, but I'm not the one that has to live with this decision either. I just have to watch it on Sundays. This guy blew away the combine. I mean, incredible. Just watching him run. I was there, hearing him, say, all the things that he said after and before. He's just a go-getter, gritty guy, go-getter, gritty guy. That's my new term. So 96th percentile performance in the broad jump, 97th percentile performance showing in the 40-yard dash, 91st percentile in the vertical leap. He was the talk of the day last week, Thursday. Posted a very high RAS score, or posted a higher RAS score than Kalijah Cansey, which is a tall order. The issue I have with Braden Fisk, though, and let me pull him up here so I can get his measurables right, is his arm length. And that's what worries me. So he hits all the marks, right? He's 6'4", check. 292. There we go. Let me start over. 6'4", check. 292, check. Hands at 9 3/8, good enough. Arms, 31. That's my problem. And it's going to always be my problem. And I don't care who it is. If he had 32.5-inch arms, 32 3/4, I might feel better because that's what Aiden Hutchinson has. If he had 33-inch arms, I'd say lock it up. He's a done deal. But it's the arm length that worries me. And being able to disengage and engage with tackles or guards. Take a look at Joe Alt. The dude has 34.5-inch arms. How is a guy like this going to engage a Joe Alt at 6'8.5" with 34.5-inch arms? Joe's just going to stick his hand out, and Braden ain't going to be able to go anywhere. You guys have seen the funny videos where, they put the hand on the head and you just kind of spinning in circles. That's what's going to happen to guys with short arms that play defensive tackle. That's my biggest knock on Braden. So incredible showing this weekend. It was fun to watch. I mean, the guy was, oh yeah, he did the Kool-Aid thing. Oh yeah, when he was running. And he just needs longer arms. I don't know what else to say. I think he's going to be a beast. I think that he's going to be an animal. No matter where he lands, I think that he has great upside. But for me, I wouldn't take the risk in that not happening for him. Tracy, I don't know about kickers yet. I haven't gotten that far. Donkey Kong says, I'm super excited for whatever Brad chooses. Sports Talk says, I don't know how accurate this is, but I saw a rumor that the Lions might trade this year 29 pick and 25 draft for Marshawn Lattimore. What do you think about that? Well, I haven't dug into Lattimore yet. That's what I was saying in the beginning. Someone brought up Lattimore, and I haven't jumped into that one yet. So, here's where I'm at. I was just talking about trading the 29th pick and a 2025. Well, you didn't put a number with the 2025. So is that a 2025 first, second, third, fourth, fifth? What is it? So what I put out in my video was trading a round 1, 29 and a next year 4 for Sneed, with the Chiefs giving us a third back. If Lattimore has, very equal numbers and everything to Sneed and size and everything, which I don't know it off the top of my head, I would say it would be an identical deal for Lattimore. They also have to be very similar in age. I don't want somebody old. I wouldn't be giving out first round picks for old guys. Absolutely not. George Vanderveen, that's hilarious, dude. And I'm going to have to say that one. He says DTs with short arms are about as useful as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. It's not a knock on Braden because I know he's going to be awesome, but I mean, it's true. You've got to have some decent size length in your arms to do well at the next level. You just do. My next riser, we're gonna move on to some O-line here. You guys have seen me mock this guy and talk about him. Zach Fraser, West Virginia. Detroit fan man, I'll come right back to that one. No one expected Fraser to partake in the drills at the combine because he broke his leg on a game-winning drive last November. So just 4 months removed from a broken leg, no one expected this guy to go out there and perform. And that right there is a big win for this kid. And that right there shows everything that you need to know about him being a Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell guy, right? The go get it gritty guy. That's what he is. He's a go get it gritty guy. And he aced it. I mean, he aced the medicals. He was outstanding with his drills. Obviously one of the best centers in this class. So this is one of my picks to go to the Detroit Lions to play guard at first, to learn from Ragnow, and to play center when needed, as needed. It's kind of like, you're sitting a quarterback for a year, you're sitting a center for a year, but you're going to get guard play out of him. So love this dude, love his ability. Now let's look at his measurables for just a moment. Let's see, where's he at? I don't know why it doesn't pull up when you hit offensive lineman and type in his last name. Come on, NFL. That's terrible. I'm going to have to search for it. And it's not even in here. What is going on? All right, let's try it again. There we go. Now we got him. All right. So arms 32 and a quarter. That's fine for a center. That's not good for a guard. You can get away with 32 or shorter inches. You can get away with shorter arms as a center, but you really can't do it, anywhere else. 6'3" is a little short. If we were to compare him to somebody like Ragnow, I think we would get an interesting perspective. Ragnow's a big man. But he's 6'5", 312 with 33 and an 1/8 inch arms. So his arms are, roughly, in just south of an inch longer than Fraser, and 2 inches taller. But Fraser has 10 and 7/8 inch hands, almost 11 inch hands, whereas Ragnow has 9 and 3/8. So you can add that extra inch and a quarter of his hand to his arm, and you're pretty much getting a little bit of a longer arm because he can reach out. Obviously, his hands aren't included in that measurement. So I think he's a good middle round prospect. I doubt that he moves up into the second round. I would be very surprised if he did. But if the Lions were to find, an opportunity with somebody like him in the third round, I wouldn't be mad at it. I think that it would be okay. It's just all about the dude's tenacity. I mean, everything that he showed, it's exactly what you're looking for, in some of these guys. It's all about the intangibles. Let me back up here. There's a couple of questions in here. So Detroit Fan Man says, so today's Amon-Ra rumors seem steep. Yes, 26 to 28 million. But if true, wouldn't this impact drafting a top 100 wide receiver instead of extending DPJ or Reynolds? Third round picks make 900K or less. Seems like a great wide receiver class. A super deep wide receiver class this year. Just about everything else is terrible. So offensive line, wide receivers, quarterbacks, fairly deep in this draft. It is an offensive draft. It is not a defensive draft. You've got to have picks early to get the defensive guys that you want, in my opinion. And I've also read, some similar things said by other people today, but I've been saying it for a while that this draft was very, very weak on the defensive side. So that's why I'm not opposed, nor will I be surprised if Brad Holmes drafts offensive guys. I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to be surprised. So to answer your question, so Detroit Fan Man, about, 3-4 weeks ago, we were talking about this. I think I and others put out some videos that St. Brown was, and we talked about it in the morning show too. I remember Derek got me going pretty hard one morning, that it was projected then that St. Brown was in the neighborhood of 22 to 26 million. And I have a very hard time with it because I love the dude and I love what he's done for Detroit. I love everything about what he's gone through and how he has totally taken ownership of being the best player that he can be. Out of any situation, it doesn't matter. He made his list and he knew that he was better than those guys and he was going to prove it. And that's what he's done. And he doesn't stop. He keeps getting better every single season. So he's everything that you want in a player. But can you pay a slot receiver $26 to $28 million when you could go and draft Xavier Legette and a handful of other guys right now, and probably have just about the same success? If you had wide receiver by committee versus St. Brown, but you're saving $20 million a year, what would you rather do? And I think that when you look at the business side of this, I think that's where Brad Holmes is going to make the hardest decisions he's ever made. Losing a guy like St. Brown is going to upset the fan base. Do they take that stuff into consideration? Maybe a little bit. Do they think about winning a Lombardi and what that's going to do to the fan base? Probably a whole lot more. And you're not going to win a Lombardi if you overpay at a position that is so highly replaceable. And it is. Wide receivers don't need to be. Look, the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with trash wide receivers. Trash. So if they can do it, why can't other teams? And there's plenty of teams that have done it. So, Tom Brady did it just about every damn year. He never really had a great wide receiver core. So I guess the point that I'm making is, do I love St. Brown? I do. Do I love everything about him? I do. Do I think that 26 to 28 million is way too expensive? I do. Yes, it is the market, and that's what he's worth, but that's not the question. The question is, does it make sense? Does it make sense long term? Here's what I would rather see. I would rather see him pick up, a franchise tag next year, or say, hey, look, we want to pay you something. You're worth something. Can we, work out we're going to franchise tag you next year. Just letting you know. So next year you're going to make like 22 million. Instead, can we work out, like a 2-year extension that's, maybe worth 15 a year, and see if he would go for that, because he's still going to be super young. And then he can go get a max contract somewhere else, if it doesn't make sense to keep him. What happens when you pay the guy 26 million and then he's injured? Then what? That's what I struggle with. And that could happen with any player. And I know that it could happen with any player. And, J-Mommy, I get it, man. Look, trust me. I love St. Brown. He was one of the first jerseys I bought in the last few seasons. When Coach Campbell, came to town, St. Brown was one of the first jerseys I bought. So I'm all about the dude. But when you look at this draft, would you not be okay with, let's just say, you got Xavier Legette, Xavier Worthy. That guy just completely blew apart the combine with a record. And I'm looking at guys that are a little bit later in the draft. or, I think Leggett would probably be second round. He could work his way up into the first. I mean, you might even have a chance at Brian Thomas. Let me look at my receivers real quick. Let me look at the sheet. So, how about a Donnie Mitchell? He had a good draft or a good combine. Xavier Worthy, Leggett. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, but there's 4, 5, 6 receivers, in the first, second, third round that could all be great. We'll come back to some of that too. Brendan Rice. I mean, there's another one that's going to be later, late second, early third. So I guess what I'm saying is, it really depends on what you're trying to do. Now, DM Ray, I don't want to let him go. I don't. I just think the 26 to 28 million is way too much for a slot receiver. I do. And, Tyreek Hill's getting paid $30 million a year because he's got Tyreek speed. You've got to look at that element. Is St. Brown only worth $2 million less than Tyreek Hill? That's the question. So he does produce. Absolutely. And it's a tough subject. It really is. So St. Brown's always going to be a tough subject because he's everybody's fan favorite. And, you guys know that I look at things from a business financial perspective, a scout perspective. It's not always the fan perspective, because the fan in me is like, yep, pay him everything. A blank check, give it to him. But this perspective of me is saying, how do you realistically build a franchise that can stay good every single year? You can't pay everybody. You are going to lose some good players. Now, the simple fact that Brad Holmes brought him in, Lions ain't going to lose him. They're not going to let him go. All right, let's move on. More offensive linemen that had a great day, great weekend. Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle, Washington. Fautanu was highly regarded as a guard, but he checked in with 34.5-inch arms, which, and throughout all of his athletic testing was a 94%. He's most definitely a tackle at the next level, just based on his arm length alone. And then when you look at what he did throughout his combine drills, he drilled it. He did an incredible job. So 6'4", 317 pounds. I would say that being 6'4" is my only concern. Typically, you want your left tackle or your right tackle to probably be 6'5" or better. I would say, taller the better. You're going to be going up against, you're certainly going to be going up against some, bigger ballers on the outside, and you've got to protect the quarterback, being on the corner. So 317 pounds. I think he's good with the weight. He'll probably add another, 5, 7, 10, somewhere in there by the time he makes it to the NFL. Hands are fine. But his 40, everything that he did as far as his workout, 5:01 in the 40, 10-yard split, a 1.71, 32.5-inch vertical jump, 9'5" broad jump. But it's when you watch him doing his side to side, and then they do the backpedaling and then they come forward, they take the ball and they're kind of telling them which direction to go. Guy is super smooth. I mean, it's almost like he had oil in his hips. Super smooth. The only thing that was extra smooth was that damn turf. Everyone was sliding everywhere. I'm kind of watching him right now, but I mean, his footwork is incredible. So look for him to become a Detroit Lion, I guess is what I'm saying, because the Lions could definitely use that tackle guard, somebody that can be very versatile. Demigod, I'll have to come back to that one. BD Buster says that's what I was saying about being a mistake in the signing St. Brown and Jared, like we did was Stafford and Megatron. Okay. Now I see what you're saying. So your question is, are the Lions about to repeat history and make a mistake by signing Goff like they did Stafford and St. Brown like they did Megatron and sinking all of that money into that basket? That's a damn good question, dude. I would say the answer is no right now, only because this is a more complete team. It's a much different team. You can get away with doing some things like the Lions are about to do when you built your core, right? They built through the draft. They have a great core, solid foundation, amazing coaching staff. They're not changing coaches every 3 years. I mean, you got to remember that the Lions under Stafford's leadership as the quarterback of the team, the dude went through like 5 head coaches, or was it 4 head coaches and 5 offensive coordinators? Something crazy. You will never, and I was going to say this the other day, you will never have a good team if you have a door that is constantly swinging at the head coaching position or any of the coordinator positions either. I mean, if you lose guys because they've been upgraded, that's one thing. When your coaches get upgraded, typically you're bringing, as good or better guys back into the funnel. But if your guys are being fired, or if coaches are being fired, you're typically not going to bring good talent into Detroit. I mean, it was hard enough for us to even find a head coach half the time. I mean, Bobby Ross, come on. I mean, Steve Mariucci at least had somewhat of a background. Jim Caldwell, great coach, good pick, but it was hard for Detroit to bring in good coaches. And now that we have finally established, a very good coaching tree, and an extremely good upper level management, people want to come here. They want to come to Detroit. So if we lose a coach, now we'll be able to replace a coach much easier with better talent, better coaching ability, better pedigree, better experience. So the long answer to your question is it's a much different situation. If I was worried that we were going to have to lose a coach here in a couple years, I think what the Lions were doing back then is they were supplementing the fan base with, hey, we can keep them engaged because we can score points. And we have one of the best quarterbacks and wide receivers to do it. And the rest of it sucks. So we're just going to have to go with that, score points, the high flying plays, keep the fans engaged. And, it's kind of like pulling the wool over the sheep's eyes. You're putting on a display of offense and, amazing highlights, but you're sacrificing everything else. Now we have an extremely complete team. If you don't have Goff or St. Brown right now this season, you're not going back to the playoffs. Guarantee it. So you have to keep the nucleus together. You don't have to pay them this year either. They're both under contract. You do not have to pay either one of them an extension if you don't want to. But is that the right message to send to the rest of the team? And is it the right thing to do? Both answers would be no. So I hope I answered your question. I'm sure it was quite long. Yeah, culture is way different too. Absolutely. Demigod says, I believe Brad wants to win with his own quarterback. I say they give Goff 3 years. If he can't or doesn't measure up to 2023 season, he's done. Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to judge. I don't think that I'm going to judge Jared Goff by the last couple of seasons because he's played, extremely elite Super Bowl caliber seasons in 22 and 23. You could compare them to the Super Bowl run that he made with the Rams, and they're darn near identical. So those are elite seasons. Even a very good quarterback that wins a Super Bowl doesn't necessarily need to have an elite season like Jared Goff did. And what he's doing is it's flat out incredible. He's allowed to have a step back. It just can't be an extreme step back. You would hate to pay a quarterback like that and then he, comes back that same year after a contract and shits the bed. You don't want that to happen. And I don't expect it to happen. I mean, you keep the team together and he should be able to play just fine. Absolutely, Jared. Our culture is way different. 1000% different. Absolutely. That's a big part of it too. Jay Amami says with Sheila taking over and getting the right people to rebuild the Lions has been the difference between the past and what the Lions are now and our future. Absolutely. And our future. Yeah. Poppy and Lily's dad said, I didn't know that stuff about Fraser. Said that Fraser crawled off the field after his injury so his team didn't have to burn a timeout. Go get it, Gritty. Come on, dude. I mean, that guy, he's pure. He's bleeding grit. He's sweating grit. He's all about the grit, and the grit is overused. We got to come up with a new word at some point. Everyone's using it now. I don't think he's not going to stay consistent. I mean, you got to put numbers down at the beginning of the year and say, okay, Goff, you did this for the last 2 seasons on average. If he has a 10% less season, are you going to be upset? No. If he had a 15% less season on average, are you going to be upset? No. Are you going to question a couple of things? Maybe. I'd say if he had a 20% less, season than he has in the past couple of years, and it didn't, and it led to a couple of losses, like if his interceptions went sky high or something by 20, 30%, then that stuff I would question. But, outside of that, I mean, again, he's had elite seasons. So it's really tough to say, okay, last year you threw for 4,600 yards. Man, this year you only threw for 4,400. What's happening? Like, that's elite. That's incredible. Anything over 4,000 is incredible. So you got to put a number on it so that we could have a conversation with it, And no matter what happens, as long as we win the NFC North and get to the playoffs, that's all we need to do is get in. Once you're in, you're in. And it's all bets are off from there. All right, another riser for me. So we got Troy Fautanu. You guys know this guy I've been talking about, Cooper Beebe, Kansas State. Very, very good showing for Beebe, who showed high quality movement. I mean, very fluid. Let me pull him up real quick. Look, the Lions, in my opinion, they're shaping up to have an offensive line draft, a wide receiver, potentially a linebacker, a defensive front, edge or tackle. I'm not going to pin it down just yet. Let me pull him up. Beebe, where are you at? And these are all guys I think the Lions could be able to get too, like Fautanu and Beebe could be available, second round. Beebe has short arms, though. That's his biggest knock. 6'3", 322 pounds, 31.5-inch arms, 9.25-inch hands. Did okay in the vertical, okay in the broad jump. Did good in the 40-yard dash, 5:03. So athleticism is good, if not great, at a 90. But his arm length is short. Again, he would have to be a guard. Wouldn't be a tackle. And he would be on the short end of the stick, I think, with 31.5-inch arms. So quite honestly, if he's there in the 4th round, if the Lions had a 4th round pick, I'd probably take him. But it all depends on his FBI and everything else. I don't know enough about, his football intelligence yet, and more information will be coming out soon. We'll have a lot more information. So I couldn't make a determination, quite honestly. I mean, I think that the Lions could end up with somebody like Beebe, but it's the arm length that kills me. And I know I say that a lot, but that's just because a lot of these guys have short arms. All right, what do we got in here? Sports Talk with Rob. Do you think that Gibbs can lead the league in rushing next season? That dude, I think he can. I can't remember the stats that I went through a couple weeks ago, but he was 10th in yards. I think he was second in touchdowns, and he missed 2 games. And if he would have played those 2 games, he would have probably been number 2 or 3 in yards this season. And he's in a running back by committee. I would easily put Gibbs as my number 1 running back next season. And he's going to have an explosive year. I think that he's going to have a far better year in year 2 than he did in year 1. We know what he has now. He knows what he has now. The key is this, though. How much of the offensive line is going to be healthy, and how much of the offensive line is going to stick around? If there's big changes, that's going to change things. So it's all relative on how well Brad Holmes keeps it together. Jared says, I believe if Jonah is asking over 13.5, he walks. So that is on the list tonight. According to the reports that I've come across, Jonah Jackson is going to become a free agent. They're not close. He's looking to get paid way too much money, and there is the potential that somebody could overpay him. But I think that the bigger issue for Jonah is this is a deep draft for guards, and there's plenty of opportunity for the Lions to find somebody. Another big riser for me was Wisconsin center Tanner Bortolini. Mel Kiper had him as the number 5 center in this year's class. And quite honestly, I think that he's definitely elevated from that. He could be an early day 2 potential in this draft. And he tested off the charts, completely off the charts this weekend. Let me pull him up. And Wisconsin, they turn out some good offensive linemen. Now, 6'4", 303 pounds. Again, short arms again. 31.5 inch, 10-inch hands. Athleticism score, 99. Production score was terrible, but his athleticism was phenomenal. 4.94 in the 40. 169 10-yard split, 32.5-inch jump, 9'4" broad. Dude he jumped out the gym today. He does offer some roster flexibility with being a guard and center. And that's what I'm looking for. If I was Brad Holmes, again, I'm going to say it again, I would be looking for the versatile guard and center, someone that can fill in if Ragnow goes down, someone that can cross-train with Ragnow for the next season, hopefully 2, and somebody that can play left or right guard. Same thing with a tackle. We need a tackle that can back up Panay or Decker, and that tackle also needs to be able to play right or left guard. And there's plenty of options in this draft to find those types of players. So be on the lookout for Tanner Bortolini to move up the draft. And then, of course, Jackson Powers Johnson. I mean, I think we expected this guy to have a good day. Definitely the best interior player in the class. An interior meaning guard center. So Jackson Powers, textbook with each of his drills. Except where he slipped one time, changing direction. But everybody slips, so I wouldn't knock him for that. You can play him at any of the interior spots along the line. Problem is, I don't see the Lions moving up to get him. I really don't. I don't see the Lions jumping up just to grab a center. Robert Welch says our need for a center is just as important as any other position right now, just for a different reason. It is. It's very true. McCormick and Pooney. You guys know that. Pooney was high on my list for the last couple weeks. He's actually next on my list right now. Another riser in this draft. And even though he played tackle in college, I think that he's going to move to the inside based on his measurements. Let me pull him up. I kind of wish I would have been able to be there today, but it is what it is. Jared, what are you saying now? You're going to go back? You're going to go back through the combine for notes. I kind of feel lost. Am I losing you? Are we bouncing all over the place? It's because I'm trying to answer some questions and statements in here too. So he didn't have the greatest athleticism score today, Pooney. He didn't. 5.35 40-yard dash, 1.86 split, just not the greatest. 30-inch jump, broad jump 8.11. And where he did do well though, 6'5", 33 and 3/8 inch arms, 10 and an 1/8 inch hands, 313 pounds. So prototypical size, if not beyond prototypical size. Like I said, played tackle in college. I would expect him to move on to the inside at the next level. He's got versatility, and I think that he'll do well. He's got some balance issues at times, but his footwork was pretty clean. At least what I could see. I mean, obviously I'm not there, so I could only see what I could see, what you guys could see. So, but what I noticed was good. He's not blowing me away, but I think that he is better than what we have right now, to be honest with you. To your point, Demigod, Colby Sorsdahl is trash. He was last year. I expect, Colby to have a much better year. Let's look at this though. What was Colby Sorsdahl's what was his combine? I think he was a Senior Bowl guy too. Let's look at Colby real quick. I'm interested. 6'6", 301. No combine. So that tells you something. And he is from William and Mary. And the one thing that I do know about William and Mary is that they produce some pretty good offensive linemen. And there is another William and Mary in this draft. So you can see what the Lions look for. So if we were to go based on what they drafted last year, they're looking for bigger guys, taller guys. And if you go back and look at my offensive line cheat sheet where I kind of put everybody together and, averaged them out to try to find that perfect size, we'll do it again. When maybe the next live that we do, I'll whittle everything down again and make it nice and clean and easy. If you guys want to use it, you can. It's just stuff that I do. Demigod says, remember they signed him late because one of the offensive linemen got hurt. Colby did start to play better later in the season. He did. I expect him to make a jump. Rookie 5th rounder, you don't expect a ton from. We get spoiled because Brad Holmes finds dogs in the 5th round and 6th round like Malcolm and or Amon-Ra, he's finding these guys in the later rounds and you just don't expect it. You don't expect them to come in and, be phenomenal, but that's just what Brad Holmes does. One of my biggest risers of the weekend is someone talking about trading Hooker again. I don't think that'll happen. I do think that there's always a possibility for everything, but I don't think that'll happen. Max Melton. So Max Melton is getting high praises from me. He was mostly, so we're talking cornerbacks now. Fringe day 2-3 prospect. Slightly undersized. Let me bring him up. Max Melton. I do believe that there's some options for the Lions to find a good corner. And they might even, target a safety that could turn into a corner. I'll take a look at Zinter, J Mommy. Do me a favor though. I assume you're a big giant Michigan fan. The one thing that I do really well, and you can do whatever you want, but I try to separate Saturdays from Sundays because I get lost, used to, if I didn't. That way I don't have, blindness when I'm looking at, the board and all I see is my team. I try to look at everybody. and keep an open mind that not everybody from my school should be the first overall pick, you know, and quite honestly, not many guys from my school are even getting in the draft. So yeah, Spartans suck right now. All right, so Max Melton, 5'11", which we know fits the Brad Holmes way because just about everybody in the cornerback room is about 5'11" right now. 32 and an eighth inch arms, 9 and an eighth inch hands, 187 pounds. So he's slightly undersized. Obviously, he could add, a couple of pounds, no problem. Not saying that he needs to, but he could if he had to. Athleticism score. I mean, I don't know why they have him as an 88. How do you have him as an 88 when the dude busted a 40.5 inch vertical, 11 foot 4 inch broad, and ran a 4.3940, and he scores an 88? Come on now. That should easily be in the 90s, mid 90s. He had a great showing. He really did. Very clean. He can play inside and outside, has good size, decent length. He's able to slide and release pretty easily off the boundary. Very instinctive. And you guys know some of the things that I was saying last week was some of the biggest keys to this is instincts. Size is one thing. Speed is another. But if you don't have instincts, it does not matter how much speed you have. If you have bad instincts, you're going to run faster to your problems. If you have good instincts, you're going to run faster to make a play. So speed is only utilized when you have good instincts and awareness and know where you need to be on the field. And he shows good instincts on the field. Mike P, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. How did the dude from Canada do? Quintess? Are you talking about Stiggers? Stiggers wasn't at the combine. Would have been nice if he was there. All right, so who's on the list next? Obviously, Kool-Aid didn't do anything this weekend. Nate Wiggins hurt himself during his 40. Quinyon Mitchell, I mean, come on. This dude had an incredible day. We knew that he was athletic. We knew that he had the size. But to run a 4.33 40, 38-inch vertical, my only question is the type of competition. And obviously, we don't know anything about these guys from a mental standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out over the next couple of weeks and if that changes perspective on anything. But Quinion right now is probably going to be the first or second corner taken off the board. One of my guys that fell, so I know a lot of you guys were high on Rakestraw. And Rakestraw did not have a great showing. He's the 23rd ranked player on NFL Network by Daniel Jeremiah, pre-combine, big board. And he likely, I guess what they're saying is he undermined his chances of being a first-round pick during his short-lived outing at the combine because he only participated in 2 drills and then pulled out of testing with a groin injury. So it kind of leaves you a little bit to wonder, right? Like, what does he have? And now is that injury going to back him up a little bit? So if the Lions are high on this guy at all, if they feel that, the injury is kind of a one-off and he's able to come back from the injury just fine, you could find Rakestraw, on a Detroit Lions team next year or this year. You could. If he slips, if he was supposed to be a first rounder and he slips into the second, I mean, I doubt that he slips to 61. But if he does, I mean, he has a chance now to become a Lion. I don't think the Lions take him at 29. Absolutely not. So Will Johnson? I must have missed that one. I'm not real sure. Any sleeper rookie cornerbacks on the radar? Yeah, Kamal Hayden. He was my number one guy. My number one sleeper. Let's take a look at Kamal. Let's see how he did. I know that he didn't do a lot of testing. At least that's what they said when we were there, that he was going to do the majority of his testing at the pro day. But let's see if he did anything at all. I don't think he did a lot, if anything at all, honestly. 6'1", 30 and 7/8 inch arms, 196 pounds, 8.5 inch hands. So from a prototypical standpoint, this guy checks the boxes for size. Hands, you could question the size, but he's got, good long wingspan. He did not do any sort of testing. He's going to do it all at the pro day, I guess, from what I understand. But at least he measured well. And that's the first hurdle is just making sure that your measurements are good. Who are you talking about, Vincent? You talking about what is a pro day? Yeah, it's like a scouting day. So the pro day is when they're going to go, their school, their college holds a pro day for the scouts to come in. All the teams will come in. So, like Alabama will have a pro day, Clemson, Michigan State, they all have a pro day. So all of their athletes that are in the combine will be able to throw with the guys that they played with, or, run routes with the quarterback that they played with, so on and so forth. So pro day is just like a mini combine. It's just, they're going to run what they want to run. They're going to do it their way. They're basically choreographing how their interview is going to go for the NFL. And that's why a lot of these players now are saying, yeah, I'm not going to do a whole lot in this pajama Olympics. I'm going to do more at my pro day. They're trying to dictate, more of what's seen of them and how their interview goes. Oh, you guys are talking about Jerry and Jones? Okay, let's look up Jerry and Jones real quick. Jerry and Jones out of Florida State. Came in at 6 foot, 30 inch arms. So he's kind of got short arms, 190 pounds, 8 and 5/8 inch hands. Athleticism score was pretty darn good. 4.38 40, 39.5 inch vertical, 10'9" broad, 1.53 split in the 10-yard. So those are all great scores. Watching him also, he's the guy that had the really fly hair. Like he had some cool hair, man. Liked his hair. Very fluid, very, very fluid guy. But he looked like he was a little thin, like real thin. But he was 190, so he must be all muscle. What they said about him is very competitive demeanor, can play outside or slide down as a big nickel if needed, which we won't need. Shuffles in a rhythm. He anticipates route breaks. He fights with the route runner to maintain coverage leverage, which is great. And he takes an angle to catch point and attacks the hands. So instinct is what I'm gathering from that. If he's attacking the hands, he comes ready to play and ready to do his work against the run. He's got some good weaknesses, though. Unable to mirror and match release with consistency. Footwork can get a little sloppy. Struggles to make vertical separation. Labors to gather momentum and stay connected on comebacks. So technique issues. Allows too many broken tackles. That's a problem. We've seen what broken tackles can do in Detroit. But again, all this stuff seems to be technique and coachable. Another faller on my list, so I'm going to move straight down here to Cameron Kitchens, safety. I had high hopes for this kid. I really thought that he was going to do well this weekend. He, was in the discussion for being a top safety in the draft. And he didn't do much to establish, his status as the number one safety in the draft. He ran a 4.65 second 40-yard dash, which is terrible. It's tied for the worst among defensive backs at the combine. Wasn't the smoothest runner during on-field drills. Very hitchy, just didn't have a good day. And he scored an unofficial 2.11 relative athletic score out of 10, which is darn near the bottom of the list. So not good. Not a good day for Kitchens. I do not expect him to become a Detroit Lion. Another faller in this draft, Braylon Trice, has said it the other day. He did not wow me at all, and he didn't wow a lot of people. He ran a 4.72 40, which was 16th among the edge group. And he was a bit undersized at 6'3", 245 pounds. And he passed on doing the jumps, the bench, and the agility drills. So I think that tells you that he's not the guy. If you're confident in your ability, you're going to go do the drills. Now, is he going to show up and do a pro day? Probably. But there's a reason why he decided not to do these drills. And then when you start to run really slow 40s, I think it's pretty telling of, what kind of player he is or going to be. All right. So let's move on to who's going to be a Detroit Lion. I think I've gone through enough of this stuff. This stuff can get pretty boring. Who's going to be a Detroit Lion this season? That's the biggest question. All right. So let's talk about pick 29 for a moment. At pick 29 right now, let's see if we've got any big boards updated. Let's see who the Lions are being pegged with. As of 2 hours ago, ESPN dropped one. Let's see what they've got. So they've got Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams. They have Jaden Daniels going to the Washington Commanders. And Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Patriots. The Cardinals picking up Romy Odunze. Now, there was some talk. I thought that Atlanta was interested in Justin Fields. Am I live now? Yes, we are live. Am I not live? You should be watching here, Jonathan. So Los Angeles Chargers, Malik Neighbors going number 5. New York Giants taking Drake May. Now, I've read that Drake May slide, potentially. Tennessee Titans taking Joe Alt. See, I don't know about the Los Angeles Chargers taking Malik Neighbors. I almost think that they want to take an offensive lineman. Anyway, Atlanta Falcons taking Dallas Turner. So there's your first edge off the board at number 8. And then the Chicago Bears follow up with Brian Thomas taking a wide receiver. So they are going to get Caleb Williams, their pass catcher, right away. The New York Jets take Fautanu, offensive tackle, Penn State. The Vikings taking J.J. McCarthy. I don't see that happening, but we'll leave it as is. Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. Las Vegas Raiders, Michael Penix Jr. And New Orleans Saints taking offensive tackle Amarius Mims. Indianapolis Colts taking Brock Bowers. Seahawks taking Fautanu. So there's that offensive lineman that I like, moving all the way up to pick 16. First cornerback comes off the board, Tyrion Arnold, Jacksonville Jaguars. Cincinnati Bengals try to help protect Joe Burrow by taking Talisi Fuaga, offensive tackle. Another guy that I mentioned earlier that I liked. And then your second edge guy coming off the board, Jared Verse, Los Angeles Rams. Your second cornerback coming off the board, Quinion Mitchell, Pittsburgh Steelers. And then your first defensive lineman, interior, Byron Murphy, Miami Dolphins. So that one makes a lot of sense. And the reason why is because Christian Wilkins is about to walk. like I said earlier in the video that, matter of fact, I should probably drop this video real quick. Give me 1 second. I forgot that it was just sitting here idle. So anyway, like I was saying, it's shaping up. This draft is shaping up to where a lot of the defenders that the Lions are going to be looking for are going to be there at 29. And whether or not the Lions stay there, I mean, if they were to go out and get a guy like Sneed and they give up their first pick, they're going to miss out on an opportunity to grab a pretty solid defender, defensive tackle or edge, even cornerback with that first pick at 29. Jonathan, I don't know if I've got your stars. They come through Facebook, I think. I super appreciate if you did send it. Let me check real quick. 1 second. Give me 1 second here. I'll check on Facebook. I never ever see stars come through, but if you send them, I'm sure I'll get them. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Jonathan, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but thank you for sending the 500 stars. Much appreciated. And are you a big Lions fan? You're new into the group, so I appreciate you joining tonight. Let me give you a shout out here with Detroit Lions.
Oh Detroit, stand up. You've waited for this. One proud nation, stand up. You've waited for this.
All right. Sorry, just taking a second here. My neighbor was telling me something about some emergency vehicles that just pulled in front of the house, and hoping everybody's okay. You're being in the HOA, you just never know what's going on, but hope everyone's okay. So anyway, shout out to Jonathan. Appreciate you joining the stream tonight and your 500 stars there on Facebook. Much appreciated. Don't always have to do that stuff when you guys join, but it's awesome to help support the channel the way that you guys have always been, very supportive. So what we were talking about is defensive line, being available at 29 and going through this mock draft that ESPN put together. Byron Murphy is the first interior defensive lineman going to the Miami Dolphins at 21. But then Chop Robinson, Philadelphia Eagles at 22. I could not imagine a guy like Chop Robinson ending up with the Philadelphia Eagles after what they've done to that defense over the last couple seasons. Insane. That would just be insane. But then Houston Texans follow up with another interior defensive lineman, Johnny Newton. Who the heck is Johnny Newton? Why am I not knowing who Johnny Newton is? Is that Johnny Newton? Hold on a second here. That must be someone's like legit first name, Johnny. It's Jerzon Newton, maybe. That's got to be who it is, Jerzon Newton. All right, so Jerzon Newton's gone at 23. Back to the offensive tackles to the Dallas Cowboys. They take J.C. Latham. Then cornerback Nate Wiggins somehow makes it all the way to 25 to the Green Bay Packers. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Jackson Powers Johnson. So at 26, if Jackson Powers Johnson was there, I'm expecting Brad Holmes to do everything in his power to move up. If Jackson Powers was seriously there, he's going to move up. Guarantee it. Arizona Cardinals take Cooper DeJean at 27. And Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, goes to the Buffalo Bills. And then you've got Latu going to the Detroit Lions, edge defender from UCLA. And I would absolutely lose it if that happened. Absolutely lose it. And that's only because the dude's got a major neck injury in his past. And I know he's cleared all the medical. And I know a lot of the teams are not worried about his medical, but I wouldn't take a risk like that. I wouldn't. There's a really big reason why his coach thought that his career was over. Now, thankfully it wasn't, and thankfully he's okay. But it's a risk I wouldn't take, especially when you have Braden Fisk and Kool-Aid McKinstry available right after that. So I'd rather take a risk on Braden Fisk than I would on Latu. But that's just me. All right. What other questions do we have or statements? What do you guys think? What do you think of Latu joining the Detroit Lions? And given the names that I just gave off, and how many names were available, let's think about it here. Byron Murphy, Jazon Newton, those are the only ones that were gone. You still have Trevonde Sweat, which you could probably get him at 61. Chris Jenkins, you probably won't get him after 45. Braden Fisk, he'll be gone by 61. But then you've got rookie Aurora, which one of the best producers in this combine and at Clemson. I mean, I don't think that you could pass on somebody like that over a guy like Latu that has, injury concerns. And what was your question there? We are about to extend Amon. Yes. Yep. That information's been coming out now for a few weeks. Yes. The Lions just dealt with a lineman with a neck injury. I don't see that happening again. Yeah. So Vaitai, and he had a major back end. I think he had neck issue, but back issue. Levi Onwuzurike, back issue. Who else? Who else had a major back issue? Stafford had major back issues, believe it or not. Had them corrected. But you got two guys, between Vaitai, who's probably going to retire this year, and then Levi Onwuzurike, who hasn't done anything yet. He's barely played since he's been a Detroit Lion. And then you've got Josh Paschal, who's also been dealing with some back issues too. So I just couldn't imagine taking a risk on another player, knowing that this is a season where the first pick that you're going to take better not be a project, better not be somebody that's injured or has injury risk. It's got to be somebody that can step on the field and put it on. If they get injured because they're going out and working hard, that's one thing. But I wouldn't want to bring somebody in that has big injury risk like that. In my opinion, at pick 29, if I'm taking defense, knowing who was just taken, I'm probably rolling all in on rookie Aurora. If not, they're a defensive tackle, I'd shoot over to defensive end. Jared Verse was gone. Chop Robinson was gone. Dallas Turner was gone. I would probably shoot for Darius Robinson, even though that would be a big reach. So knowing that that's going to be a big reach, I would probably try to trade back to probably the 40s, low 40s, and pick up Darius Robinson and add another, late second round pick by moving back. And I know it sucks because we're going to be at the draft, but that's what I would do. I would move back off of 29, knowing the way that just went down, and either stay, inside of, 39, or, below 45, and grab your two defenders there. You'll grab a corner and a defensive end, or a defensive end and a defensive tackle. If they could back up, defensive tackle, defensive end, bang, bang, and then hit offensive line 2 times in a row with a receiver mixed in somewhere in there, I think that would be a win-win, and I wouldn't care what else we got in the draft. But it all depends on free agency and what's going to happen here over the next week. So for my first round, first pick for the Detroit Lions, it's defensive front for sure. If we do not pick up a cornerback in the draft or in free agency, then it's going to be a corner. I think that you can get a corner in the second round for sure. Without a doubt, you'll be able to find somebody that'll be good. Not a lockdown good, but good. So we'll chop fall to 29 probably. Probably. What is this? Lion Syndicate likes to delete what? Likes to delete. I don't know what that is. I would be stunned if we didn't draft pass rush right away. Yeah, I would be stunned too. We should do a mock right now as overall votes. I like trading down and getting more draft capital. George Vanderveen, unfortunately, Lion Syndicate is too emotional to be so sensitive. Wow. Okay. I think Derek's just passionate. He's very, very passionate about his fans. He has his own opinions, which he's got great opinions and does great work. So, hell, I'm emotional, man. I get emotional about the Lions. I get emotional about my picks and all the research and work that I put in, and like to think that I'm right, but I'm not always right. I'm wrong a lot, and that's okay because a lot of people are in this game. So, all right, I seen someone that said that they wanted to do a mock draft. Does everybody want to do a mock draft live? Yeah, I don't know. Someone must be mad at them. I don't know what's up with that. Oh, I see. They kept deleting your comments. I gotcha. Well, gotta behave, man. I don't know what you said. But anyway, if you guys want to do a mock draft live, then I would need to just take about 2 minutes, do a quick pause, and then come back, and then we can do a mock draft. I just need 2 minutes. I want to grab something to drink, and it's past 10, so I got to make sure my dogs get out real quick. I'll just let them out the door, and then I'll be right back. Okay? Give me 2 seconds. All right, we're back. So we'll do a quick mock draft. No bounce for the night. Let's find it here. Hey, just do me a favor. I don't want to bash anybody, so just do me that favor. I appreciate what all the creators do. So if you've got personal vendettas or anything, let's just try to keep it to yourself if you don't mind. Derek's a good dude. All right, let's see here. Let's get this up. Well, that's not big enough. All right, everybody can see it okay? All right. Vincent Some says, right. So do you think it's safe enough to skip a defensive edge since we got Betts? We've got to see what Betts has first. Let's see what he has to offer in camp. There's going to be a lot of information that comes out as soon as we get into some of these rookie, mini camps. I don't know if he's going to be available to play in the rookie mini camp or not. But there's off-season workouts and all the little camps that they start to do that will give us some great information. And I plan on being in all of them because my press pass is on the way. And then I just got to apply to the Lions and NFL and all that good stuff. So camp is after the draft. So, all right, let me slim this down just a little bit. There we go. All right. Can everybody see it okay, or do I got to blow it up just a little? Well, I guess we'll roll with that. We'll see how that looks. I'm not going to make any trades. We're just going to roll with it. And, I think we all agree that let's see what was taken, though. Let's look at the last 10 or so. So Jared Verse went at 14, Dallas Turner 15, Latu, thank God, went at 16. Terrion Arnold's gone at 17. Kool-Aid McKinstry, wow, up to 19. But then there's Jackson Powers Johnson gone at 20. And Peyton Wilson. So somebody asked earlier, and I forgot to answer, and I apologize. They asked if I thought that we would take a linebacker this draft. And I said it last week, don't be surprised if the Lions take a linebacker. Just don't be surprised. You got to think that, Alex Anzalone's deal was only a 3-year deal. So he's entering year 2 of his deal. And when you look at the needs-based analysis, we do need a linebacker. I'm sorry, but Jalen Reeves-Maybin is not, our 4th linebacker as a starter or rotational guy that I believe can, play more than 50% of the snaps. He hasn't even played 10% of the snaps of a full season. So I would say that, yes, we do. Demigod says, Will, what do you think about trading up to pick first in the 2nd round? I like that idea too. I wouldn't mind packaging 61 and something else from next year in 25 to move up into the top 40. I think that would be phenomenal. The meat of this draft is, that 35 to 45, 50 at the most, I think is where the meat is going to be for the Lions to really do well if they can move up. But Peyton Wilson had a great weekend. I forgot to mention him because I kind of skipped over my linebackers, but man, he had a great weekend. Expect him to do great things in the NFL. Jerzon Newton's gone at 25. Rakestraw still made it up in the 1st round. Very surprising. But man, Brian Thomas was almost there at pick 28. So there's some studs still available. Let's take a look. We will start with defensive line. We've got Chris Jenkins. Matter of fact, let me pull up his combine real quick. He had a pretty good weekend. So 34-inch arms, that's a box checked. 6'3", big enough. 299. Athleticism score was an 83. He ran a 4.91, pretty darn good. Not so hot in the broad or the vertical though, which makes me question his power and his lower body and you know his short area quickness. That's the only thing that it makes me question. So for that reason, I would probably pass on him. But you know who's got a great look at this guy are the Lions. I mean, they literally have U of M in their backyard. So they're going to have really high marks on this guy. Then they'll probably take him. But, you know, we don't know. Braden Fisk, like I said, I would take him in a heartbeat, but his arms scare me. And then rookie, I still think we can get him at 61, or I think that Brad Holmes would probably move up. So I'm going to pass on the defensive line. Let's see, you know, what we've got for defensive ends. Chris Braswell. Adisa had a really good weekend. He's somebody that definitely started to jump up in the board. Let's see where he ended up. Right now, Braswell is about 4, 5, 6, about the 8th, and Adisa Isaac is the 9th rated defensive end. And then you got Chop, and then you got Darius Robinson. So take a kicker. No, I'm not taking a kicker. All right, so you guys tell me. You guys know that I'm high on Darius Robinson. I know that he didn't have the greatest testing. But you guys also know that I always say that the 40 isn't everything. It's intelligence. It's heart. It's, you know, the measurements. It's, you know, the being instinctual. Robinson can play just about anywhere across the line. 6'5", 34.5-inch arms. A little light at 285, but that gives, you know, him an option to play the end as well. 10 and 5/8-inch hands. I mean, these guys don't just grow on trees. They are rare specimens. He is like Myles Garrett #2. You know, not as fast, but he's, you know, same size, maybe a little bigger. 35-inch vertical, so he's got good power. Kind of didn't do so well in the broad jump, so it kind of makes you worry about his anchoring and ability with lower leg power. He didn't have the greatest athleticism score, but he could have had a bad day too. But from a raw power and ability, you know, with his length, I would definitely take a Darius Robinson right here. And yes, I would take him over Chop. I would. I absolutely would. And I don't think Chop's going to be here anyway. So if it was between him and Adisa Isaac or Chris Braswell, Chris Braswell measured out at 6'3", 33.25-inch arms. So he's got the arm length, 9 3/8 hands, 251 as far as weight. So he's a little bit light, but he ran a 4.640, 33.5-inch vertical, 9'7" broad jump. So overall, he's about a 74 in his score breakdown. I don't know what his RAS is. And I don't know what Darius Robinson's RAS is. Let me see if I can pull it up. All right, so Darius Robinson scored a 9.64. That's pretty good. And let's see, Chris Braswell. I don't see a RAS score on Chris, and I'm not going to do it right now. It takes too long. So what do you guys want to pick? Chris or Darius? Robert Welch is kicking for us next year if we lose. That'd be great. D Robinson, I see a lot of Robinsons in here. And see, and I would love to take Chop. I mean, I mocked him up for a reason. I was high on him for a reason, but I don't think that I can pass on the upside of Darius. So I'm sure I'm going to get a bad grade, but I don't care. Brad Holmes gets bad grades every year. And then at the end of the year or the next year, it's like, oh, wait a second. You get an A plus and you get the draft award. All right. So now we're on the clock at pick 61. And we've already locked up so there's rookie. We've already locked up a defensive end. Blake Fisher actually had a pretty good weekend, but at 71, I would dare say I would probably try to pick him up at 73. Let's look at the defensive line, only because that's, where we need people. Brandon Dorloose, I would stay as far away from him as possible. And you've got rookie there, which you guys know I'm high on. Now, Trevonde Sweat is interesting to me. Can you pick him up at 73? Probably. It all depends on, what happens between his pro days and his interviews. So at 366 pounds, he moved well. And the thought process here is if he can just drop 15, 20 pounds, this guy is going to be a monster, like an absolute monster. And if the Lions were to go back to back with defensive line, defensive edge, our defense is going to be incredible next year. And these guys might only be, rotational guys at the very beginning. But imagine, once things start to click for these guys and you have supposedly the best defensive line coach now. So these guys will be able to elevate their games a lot quicker. I don't think that you could pass on rookie here, but let's look at an offensive lineman just because it's really, really bleak for us. Cooper, short arms, Bo Lemur had a bad weekend. You could probably pick the rest of these guys up at 73 or later. Tackle is, we could use some help at tackle. And they could definitely play guard. Again, you could move up at 73. Pooney you could get later on. So I'm going to pass on offensive line right now. Let's look at corner. See, and I'm expecting that they're going to get some corners in free agency. Got Jerry and Jones at 86. Abrams Drain did not have the greatest of weekends. Brownlee did well. Cam Hart did well. And there's Max Melton at 112. So I'll pass on corner for now. We'll go back to defensive line, and we're going to take rookie. Everyone on board with rookie. All right, rookie it is. Right in it, back at 73. And this is where I would grab a wide receiver. I do like Gabriel Murphy. Let me check out Gabriel Murphy. And I would hate to grab all defense with the first three, but I do like Murphy. He is somebody that I mentioned last week, Thursday night, that I felt could climb up the board and be really sneaky once he enters the league. He might be a project in the beginning, but he really showed some versatility. He's got short arms. He's not the tallest. He's only 247 pounds. So I'd pass on him for now, but he's got some high upside to him. He's going to be a guy that wins with heart and not size. All right. So right away, I do like Brendan Rice right here. I do like Rice, and let's look at the tight ends because you guys know that we need one. Theo Johnson at 157 would be an incredible steal. I don't see him being available after 73, but we'll see. We'll come back for him. I'm drafting based on what this is telling me is available. I don't believe that these guys are going to be anywhere near where they're being ranked right now. Safety. So Sian Vaki, he had a good weekend. Just doesn't have the best grades. So if I'm going to go BPA, then I'm going to have to go back to defensive line. And or linebacker. Nobody's really jumping off the page for me. All right, so Trotter, 6 foot 228. Nope. I'd pass on him all day. No 40. All right, I can get those guys with the next pick. This guy right here is who Dan Campbell had his eyes on. And Nelson Caesar. All right, we're going to triple up. Defensive line is set for a while. I mean, I could quad it up and take Trevonde Sweat, and we would never have to worry about this defensive line ever again. But that would really screw the Lions on not getting anybody for corners because they're really hurting in the cornerback room big time. Oh man, they don't have any of the stats loaded yet. Well, that's not good. I'm going to have to look at it all over here. All right, who else was up there? Was Renardo Green in there? 6 foot, 31 and a quarter. Here, press man corner. Got to take the corner. Sinistro, yeah. So I can't draft Sinistro because he's too small. He's 5'9". It's way too short. Got to draft Theo. That was too easy. And this is why I don't like these picks because the Lions they've got to wait so long between some of these picks, and that's where while Tanner Bortolini, there's no way he would be available right here. There's just no way. I got to look back at his stats. I think he had short arms, but he had a heck of a weekend. And he could get away with some short arms at center. So drafting a center. We need one. All right, last pick. I mean, I would take a kicker here. Every time I draft a kicker, though, we get a crappy grade, which is expected. There's no corners left. Kitten Olapido. I don't think he had a good weekend. Let's take a look. I don't even think he was there. Nope. Let's see. Safeties. Let's see. 6'2", 216, 32 and 3/8, 9 1/4, 4.58 40. That's pretty good. 36-inch vertical. So not the greatest overall, but you know what? We need guys that can play. So take a safety. All right, let's see what our crappy grade is. It's going to be much different here in a couple of weeks, but C+ is terrible. I didn't draft Chop. I drafted Darius. What happened? I drafted Darius. I didn't draft Chop. Well, anyway, we had Darius, Rookie, and Marshawn Nealand. The defensive line would have been solid. Then Renardo Green, obviously, to help the cornerback room, tight end, a center, and a safety. That's pretty darn good. But now I've got to redo it because it didn't give me who I wanted, and now we're not going to get the same players. Oh, well. Let's try it again. Let's see if they're there. All right, there's Darius. And I'll stay far away from Braylon. Xavier Worthy. I mean, he's interesting. Kalen Bullock. Oh, I didn't see him there earlier. Yep, gonna have to stay away from him. Watch Brad draft him. Xavier Leggett. I would totally take him right now. Change it up a little bit. Take the corner, and then I'm going to circle back, and Rookie is still there. I'll do some more with trades too. When I put out my mock, I was supposed to put it out today, but I'll put it out tomorrow. I'm going to do some trades in mine. I'm going to put out two. I'm going to do one with and one without, and we'll go from there. We'll see how well it does. Yeah, Theo's gone. That sucks. There's really nobody else that I would take. I mean, Tip Raymond had a decent weekend, but I wouldn't risk it. So he's at 209. I don't know anything about Drake Nugent. At least I don't know enough. And I don't remember seeing any big time scores for him this weekend. Let's take a quick look. Hunter Norzad. We're going to roll offensive line, I think, with the next pick. Last pick was where is it? Last pick was Sion Vaki. So we got a safety, and then we got rookie. So defensive line, because Rice was gone. And Jerry and Jones, cornerback. So we got a corner and a safety. And defensive line with the rookie. And Darius Robinson. So 2 edge or 2 defensive line and 2 in the back. I mean, I don't think it gets any more balanced than that from a defensive perspective. So the problem is we need offensive line now. And I think I got to take Hunter Norzad. I mean, he didn't do any testing this weekend. Let me look at Trevor Keegan real quick and see if he's in here. And what did he grade out to be? See what his arm length is. He's got decent size arms, 6'5", 310. Good athleticism. Oh, terrible broad. He has no power in his legs. And who was the other one? Nugent. I wonder if he's related to Ted Nugent. He's short, 6'1.5". Yeah, that's too short. He'll be a guard, possibly a center, but he'll be a guard. I think I'm going to have to roll with Hunter Norzad at this point because we need offensive line. Jalen Harrell at 204? No way. See, I would almost take a flyer on that kid right there. But we need a center. I got to take him. And I'm going to get a terrible grade for it, but that's all right. Got to draft for need and best player available, in my opinion. 247. Last pick of the draft for the Detroit Lions. Potentially. Until Brad Holmes starts drafting, it's all going to change. We've already taken 2 defensive backs. Do we take a third? I guess, see, it all depends on what happens with CJ Gardner and who comes back. Nobody's really popping out except for Jaden Crometti. We could go kicker. Crometti actually had a decent weekend. Do you see Rice making it to 29? Brendan Rice? I think Brendan Rice is going to be available at 61, quite honestly. Mid-second round, 45, 48, somewhere in there right now. I didn't take a kicker. I don't know if the Lions are going to take a kicker. They got Badgley again. I'm going to take Crometti only because he had a decent weekend. So he's the best player in my opinion. And Darius Robinson, we knew we would get a terrible grade for. Hunter, we got an F. I've never seen an F. Got an A on rookie, though. But you know what? That looks like a Brad Holmes kind of draft. Terrible grades. And then, you know, the season happens. And they play lights out. And then everyone's like, oh, we screwed up. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. How many people are going to say, oh, my God, Brad Holmes had an amazing draft. Everyone's going to come out and say that this year. You watch. Maybe they won't. But I have a feeling a lot of people at the bigger 3 and 4 letter media outlets will, because they're sick of being wrong. So, all right, look, you guys have been awesome. It's been another 2-hour stream tonight. Not expected to go that long, but it did. There's been over 100 people all night long. So do me a favor, smash the like button for me. Get this stuff flying. Help us gain some more traction. You guys are the best supporters by doing that. You know, if you haven't subscribed and you've been coming around watching the content for a while, do us the favor and subscribe. We're trying to get to 10,000 before kickoff of the 2024 season. And that way we can finally get to the last level of YouTube and really start to open up some things for everybody and help out, you know, the people that follow us with more giveaways and everything like that. And just so everybody's aware, 9 Drinks won the 4K giveaway and never got a hold of me. And I said I would give them 24 hours. Well, it's been much longer than that. So I'm going to have to do another giveaway and just give away what I already planned on giving away. So the next time I go live, we're going to have to do that unless somehow he or she gets a hold of me between now and then. But you guys have been awesome tonight, and appreciate you guys for joining me. And it's going to be a busy week. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming at you guys. So hit that notification bell. Make sure you understand that there's going to be a lot of rumors. Not all of it's going to be right. Not all of it's going to come to fruition, but we'll do our best research and try to get you the best information. So, all right, y'all, have a good night. Go on Pride, go Detroit Lions. Until next time, take care. Okay, bye-bye.